So, as Gotham Season 4 moves closer to its comic book origins, or I guess comic book destiny, it sometimes is as awkward as baby Bruce Wayne. A little bit, finding its bearings. Maybe it would prefer we didn't see some of these things. They're like, we're working on it. But obviously there are many of us who have faith. And even though last night's episode was a little bit too heavy on setup, for future awesomeness and didn't have enough awesome moments of its own, I still enjoyed it. Except for Scarecrow. Not a Scarecrow fan. Never been a huge Scarecrow fan in general, which maybe isn't helping, but I don't think they've really done much with the character here. But once again, these are the top 5 moments I think are worth discussing for the episode in the order of how much I love them. And so obviously, number 1 is the birth of the Sirens. I was seriously geeking out while this happened on my television screen. And the whole time when they first came in, and of course we all knew that Barbara was going to be there, and you had Selina and Tabitha. They were like, Tabitha, please join our crew. I was like, forget Tabitha. We all know her days are numbered. Get Poison Ivy in here. So as soon as Poison Ivy showed up with Penguin, I was like, yes, stay. And I was hoping that Poison Ivy would be put there by Penguin to watch the group, but obviously I guess he would never trust her with such a responsibility. But the way things are turning out, we'll talk about Ivy in a moment. She gets her own section. I like all the Sirens. I'm a big Poison Ivy fan, but I really, I just don't like Tabitha, to be perfectly honest with you. And I'm not sure how things are going with the new Barbara. She's had so many incarnations. But also I was surprised her hair didn't look as good up close as I had thought it would. I think she still needs a little bit of a tweak with her makeover. But it's so funny that I used to hate that character so much. Lee, of course, is the new Barbara. We'll talk about Lee too. But she has become like one of my favorite characters on the show. Love it. Love what they're doing. She's obviously the Harley Quinn foil, and I'm hoping to see her march closer to that destiny herself as we talk about getting closer to comic book destiny. But I think, obviously, I'm very curious to learn who is bankrolling her and probably brought her back from the dead. Her explanation of check for a pulse next time is a little too simple. I mean, her eyes were open. I mean, maybe she had like a very low pulse, but I suspect, especially because how weird she is, something's been done to her. Did she get juiced up a little bit? But of course, Poison Ivy's supposed to be the one who does that. And we'll talk about Poison Ivy juicing herself up. But also, I thought that it was a great business idea. I was like, I got to hand it to you, Barbara. This idea of being the weapons depot for Gotham was really smart. And I'm just so glad it's not another nightclub. I think that's just getting really tired. And I really wish they had moved the Iceberg Lounge to a different location. I'm so sick of that location from season 1. Let's move on. I hope somebody blows it up this season because I don't ever want to go back there. Maybe when Riddler dethaws. I also appreciated, though, speaking of locations, that the Gotham show splurged on the Sirens' new boutique. Oh, I hope they do call it maybe a boutique. It looked so cool. When she pushed that handle and like they had the rotating floor and the light up walls and then also the other side of the room rotated. I mean, I was as happy as Zaz, who gave it the thumbs up. It was very, very nice. I was like, this is actually a pretty darn nice club. And the sofas look so comfortable and plush. It was fabulous. I'd be like, who bankrolled you? And who's your designer? Who's your interior designer? I loved it. I also liked it had a little bit of a feminine touch to it, but it wasn't too girly, which I think is awesome. It gives the Sirens credibility. Now let's talk about Ivy. Moment number 2. I can't believe they're making us wait to see her transformation until next episode. Or maybe not even then. Well played, Gotham. When her face started to bubble up, I was like, whoa, what is happening? And then it started to take on this weird quality, and I was like, oh, you're going full plant, like, they have done in later episodes, like Batman the Animated Series, the animated series took it there, and sometimes they do in the comics as well. I don't know how I feel about, like, super planty Ivy. I have mixed feelings about it. And this one, she started to also take on a look with, like, the fully black eyes and the very pointy chin. She's looking a little like Area 51 alien drawing too, right? I thought that was an odd choice. I also thought it was an odd choice that she would get her powers from gulping down a bunch of ancient Chinese potions. I told you, they always go for, for supporting in very like day roles, day players, they go for Asian actors. I think it's really interesting that when Gotham has a chance to choose on its own, they often go in that direction. But this also was awesome because that actor is one of the dads, the father of Alan Yang's, I think it's Alan Yang. Alan Yang's one of the writers, but they have an Asian character on the show. Alan Yang gave that great Emmy speech, but his father was the same actor who plays him. So it's funny to see him here. Just her gulping down ancient Chinese potions, I was like, one, I don't know what this has to do with plants really. And also, if ancient Chinese potions have the ability to do this, how has it never happened before, right? And I also feel it's a little bit, I don't know, it just reminded me a little of the Defenders a little bit, with all their like the hand and all that stuff. I was like, I don't know if I want to do this, but we'll see. We'll see. I'm up for juicing her powers and giving her a little bit more oomph. And I think that they really pushed Ivy to that point where she's just tired of like not being taken seriously. And I like that mirrored how Selina feels. But I'll be curious to see how they do the plant powers with a more grounded show like Gotham. It's getting less and less grounded, but one of the neat things is I think that they still manage to retain that to some degree. So I'd like to see them retain that, even as they go a little bit more into the fantastical or the Batmanish stuff, right? And speaking of Batman, next up, the birth of the Bat Gear. We had basically the genesis of the utility belt with all the, taking up different things in the room. The grappling hook, the suit. Interesting addition, by the way, to have like a grip capability, almost Spider-Man-esque, that helps him, in case he misses a ledge by just a little bit. I thought that was interesting. And also, of course, tech and field support. Let Lucius play. I felt bad that after he brought over awesome toys, they still made him go home. I'd be like, you want to go and test this stuff out, Lucius? And he'd be like, I sure do. I thought you'd never ask me. Maybe in a future episode. By the way, I loved Alfred's suit in the end of the episode when he was on the street helping Bruce. And I think it's interesting, again, interestingly, bringing up the Defenders. I said that all the suits on the Defenders look the same, no matter what character's wearing it. But here, the GCPD suits look very different than the suit that Bruce Wayne was wearing last week and that Alfred had on this week. And I appreciate that attention to detail. I thought that crashing through the window was cool. I thought that using things in the room was a little forced. I don't understand how Bruce Wayne comes to these conclusions. And I think they should also set up why he's not willing to just use a gun, right? And why he's like, why are you making it so much harder for yourself? It doesn't quite make sense because they haven't established it in this mythology. So I'd like to, and also I don't know where this cleverness comes from. We've rarely seen Bruce think on his feet, right? In fact, he's often a little bit slow to catch up with everyone, and Selina's always rolling her eyes at him. So I don't know how all of a sudden he's like, yes, I shall make fire, and then I shall swing out that window. I'm like, where did this come from? He's like MacGyvering it up in there. Also, I thought it was funny when he was standing on the roof at the very end of the episode and he put the cowl on, that Alfred had made for him. I don't know how everybody's so good with making high-tech gear in this in Bruce Wayne's circles. I thought that when Lucius gave him the suit, I thought the way David, you guys corrected me on the pronunciation of his name, the way he played it was just so Bruce Wayne. I loved it so much. But when he stood up and he had the whole suit on, I was like, I can see why you need the ears. It's just to balance out the look. Forget criminals being a cowardly and superstitious lot. Bruce Wayne just doesn't want to look stupid. All right, now moment number 4, organized crime. Sure, Penguin's trying to do his own version of organized crime, but I think it's important to balance the more eccentric rogues with the more traditional criminals, which are the mob. Today, that's gangs or cartels or like the Russian mob, really. And that's why I had a lot of interest in what David Ayer tried to do. I don't think he totally, or even in large part, succeeded, but I thought pushing them in the gang direction made more sense because that's what you have today. But in this show, which is a little bit timeless because it has like a classic application to the mythology, the Batman mythology, I like having the mob still around, the traditional mob, because it reminds me so much of the fantastic Batman stories, The Long Halloween and Dark Victory, where the Falcone family and the rest of the mob factors in very heavily into the Batman activities. So I always have a soft spot for them in the Batman stories. And I'm looking forward to having that element brought back in, and also apparently Falcone's daughter will be running them now. But I don't think all businesswomen in Gotham can go without a shirt. This can't be like the new trend. It makes no sense. And also I think it takes away from both characters doing it, right? Barbara was first. You're going to have to go get a different look, Minnie Falcone. All right, then finally, Scarecrow. I hope that we're done with the Scarecrow, at least for a while, because it is not working. I appreciated Charlie Tehan's performance. I thought particularly the end when he had his mask off and he had like a pinched face and he looked, these giant pale blue eyes, which, confirmed that he was actually wearing the suit. For a large part of the first 2/3 of this episode, I was like, is there a different actor, like an adult actor underneath that costume, and they're just putting Charlie Tehan's voice over it because it didn't move like him. It was just, for some reason, it didn't fit. But when he took the mask off and I was looking at his eyes, it was like, I guess, Belle with the Beast. I'm like, it is you in there. And he has really amazing eyes for that. They're very big and they have like a weird, surreal quality to them. But when he was talking just as Jonathan Crane with his little pinched face, it looked just like Jonathan Crane to me from the comic. So I really liked that. But for the most part, it wasn't working. Again, as I said, I've never been a huge Scarecrow fan, and this, I don't understand why he was like at one point he was like telling everybody he was fascinated about what they were afraid of, but then he was trying to get Gordon to commit suicide. I was like, what's your motivation here? What's going on? It's all over the place. I didn't see a clear mission statement, I guess, for Jonathan Crane, except I guess get revenge for his father's death. But where was that coming from? Why did he suddenly like his dad? It didn't make any sense. And I love a good insane asylum story. I'm a big fan of insane asylums. I've researched them. I think they're fascinating. And I liked when the head of the asylum was shooting clowns orderlies, because he thought they were clowns. I thought that was really well done. And although it was unfortunate timing re Pennywise, right? I mean, as soon as that, he's like, what are you afraid of? And then a clown showed up in the background. At first, my first thought was, that's some good contortionist work, by the way. But then I was like, too similar to Pennywise. From the same studio, by the way, both Warner Brothers. But the real reason I have a problem a lot of the times with the Arkham Asylum scenes is that I think they have the worst actors for insane asylum patients. I know they're extra gigs, really. I would get like regulars, and I would make sure I got actual actors, and I'd be like, maybe you'll get a bigger part if you really impress me in the background of these scenes. Maybe I'll make you a new villain for this show. Because right now there needs to be some incentive, but every time I'm just like, oh, this is some bad local theater, man. It's bad. By the way, when he gassed Gordon, and they're like, I wonder what you'll see, I was like, it's going to be Lee. I just know it's going to be Lee. And it was like I got gassed. It's like what I fear on this show. And I was like, oh, please go away. Luckily, it didn't last for that long. And I thought it was ridiculous, by the way, that water got rid of the effects of the fear gas. Like, apparently it washed it off your face, but I mean, you inhaled it. So how would that help? Why wasn't Jonathan cured as soon as he got a bath at the asylum? Although I wouldn't be surprised if the asylum doesn't clean their patients. I did like when Jonathan said, I didn't get any treatment while I was here. I was like, touche, Jonathan, that's very true. And that's how the director kind of reacted too. He was like, yeah, I did not do anything for you. But I guess it did work because Jonathan was injected with the fear chemicals, and so that's why it's not going away. But I thought that was too easy a fix, So every time, the Scarecrow shows up, we just turn on the sprinklers and we're all good. I think that makes him like an even lamer villain. So I didn't like that. So I'm excited to see, obviously, the next episode. They do a great job teasing the next chapter, but I thought that for this episode alone, like because I watched it DVR'd, so I would fast forward through the commercials and I would see what the timing was. And I've done this on Game of Thrones too, and you'll be like, oh man, there's only like 10 minutes left and not enough awesome stuff has happened. I think it's important for writers, like I've said this before when I'm doing my writing, because I've written comic books and stuff, you should always have like at the top of your notes things that have to happen in each episode. And I think that it would help the show and any show to remember that you need water cooler moments in every single episode. And I don't think that's exactly the problem with this episode. I don't think it had a single water cooler moment. I mean, I guess the water cooler you'd be like, I can't wait for next week. But there wasn't anything where you were like, wow. I guess the return of Barbara to some degree, but there are more questions. And also they already revealed her return in promos, so it wasn't like you got to see her look or anything like that. So what did you think of last night's episode? And what were your top moments, and what are you looking forward to coming up? And do you think they're doing a good job getting closer and closer to this show's destiny? Write your thoughts down below, and you can check out some more episodes right now.